We adhere to the CNCF code of conduct, which boils down to don't be mean. We record these meetings and post them up on YouTube for your records. And this is my first time running this, so please be gentle. So before we begin, if we have any new members, feel free to say hello with a quick intro. And if not, we can go through the agenda. I'll pause with an awkward silence. All right, well, it looks like, so we have a few items on the agenda: triage, new SIG chairs, multi-network KEP, and then some KEP review, and then more KEPs. Tim, do you want to kick off the triage?
Sure. I appreciate everybody who's gone through and done some pre-triage to the extent that I've only got 3 worth bringing up today. Everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Number 1, node ports listening on external IPs that are also used as load balancer IPs. Lars is all over this one, which is awesome. It does seem like a bit of a breaking change that we've made at some point. It's a weird use case, but I wanted to raise it here because it highlights the problem that, you know, people mix and match the way things work, and every aspect of our implementation eventually becomes part of the API. So
is it
Lars,
just IPVS or is it also IP tables?
I didn't confirm yet. I actually had to rebuild my tree, so I didn't get to confirm it this morning. I feel like I saw this before on IP tables too, but I can't remember if we fixed it on IP tables. So the use case here that's interesting is it's actually the node's IPs. It's not an allocated load balancer IP. And so it's reasonable that a node IP would have a node port, but they also use that node IP to assign a load balancer IP. And so it seems like it would be reasonable that it would also support the load balancer port, but IPVS detected one of those cases and broke the other.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think what Lars is saying there, this is specific to the way that the sets are handled in IPVS. In IP tables, you end up with the opposite bug, which is that the load balancer IPs answer on node port, even though you probably don't want that.
Yeah, that's the bug that I remember seeing, and I can't recall if we fixed that or not. No? We probably should. Okay, so Lars is on this. I just wanted to bring it up here. I thought it was a very interesting case. We probably should look at whether it's possible to fix the node ports appearing on load balancer IPs in IP tables 1.
I had a quick question. Is this?
Go ahead.
I can check if it's easy done. I believe it could be done in a fairly easy way, but I haven't checked the code yet. But I believe it shouldn't be too hard to fix. But it's a very weird corner case. But I understand his setup and why he has it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Hiram's law kicks in at some point.
I was about to ask, is this even supported in the first place? Can we have an external IP that is also a load balancer IP? I thought the whole point of the service spec to have node ports and load balancer IPs and external IPs were all for different purposes. Like, what's the case of having them as the same?
I mean, clearly it's not well supported because we don't have any tests for anything for it. But Hiram's law says that if it's a part of the API for long enough and there are enough users, that eventually it becomes part of your contract, whether you like it or not. And so what we need to figure out is if this is isolated, if this is just one person doing something sort of edge casey, and we can say, here's a workaround for you, or they can adapt somehow. Or whether we say, oop, this is unfortunate, let's put a test on it and make sure that it keeps working. And I don't know what the right answer is.
It has been unnoticed, I believe, for 1.5 years So this guy has just recently updated.
Yep.
So I believe it's not a common use case, at least.
Right. But it's also not a good way for us to make friends by breaking things that have worked for a year and a half.
No, I agree.
I mean, I try to put myself in their shoes and how unhappy I would be if I upgraded over the holidays and broke my cluster. So, okay. It looks like, Lars, are you on this one? Do we need to talk more about it?
No, should I triage it as a bug and start
If you think it's
looking
a
at
bug,
it?
then yeah, if you think it's a legitimate bug, let's go ahead and accept it and we can figure out if there's a solution or not.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if it's a bug, and this user seemed to have solved the problem. He can move to node port services only. As I understood,
Okay.
it wasn't hard for him. But
If we can, if we can get away with leaving it like the way we want it to be, as opposed to the way it has been, yeah, what Bridget just said, we should document somewhere, like, if you're in this situation where you're using the same node port as a load balancer IP, then you shouldn't expect both to work, and you should instead just use the node ports directly. That would be great if we can just document our way out of it.
Yeah, that would be great. But I will check the code anyway. It could be
Thank you so much.
Easy fix.
Okay. Next, IPVS scheduler. Lars, now that your change went in, should we close this issue?
No, he can still not set his wanted scheduler, the maglev, because there are restrictions in the validator. I don't know if I should remove them, but now it's possible to easily support any scheduler, even if they write their own.
Right. I think that was the goal, right?
Yeah. So I don't think it can be closed, but it's partially solved.
Okay.
I will look into it further.
Should I just accept it?
Yeah.
Okay. And this one was left over from last time. We don't have an assignee for a Windows WinKernel feature request.
That would be Mike Z.
I'm not an org member yet. I need to do those things.
I
know. It's on my to-do list.
It's Mike Z?
It's Mike Z87. Maybe Bridget, can we assign it to you really quick, and then we'll iron out the org member stuff.
Yes, go ahead and just send it over to me.
We let him say the magic words at the start of the meeting, and he's not even an org member.
Bridget, what's
speculative.
Your GitHub?
It's like speculative execution.
Bridget, what's your GitHub? I forget.
It's Bridget Krumhout, BridgetKR.
There you are.
There we go.
Didn't show up in my first autocomplete. There you go.
It means I need to do more.
Okay, that's it for triage. I will turn the floor back to Michael.
Appreciate that, Tim. So the next item on the agenda is also you, Tim, for the new SIG chairs.
Right. So we've been having discussion about changing of the guard on SIG chairs. Casey and Dan have been doing this for a long time. It's good to get fresh meat into the grinder. I mean, into the process. So we've been talking about, Michael has volunteered, Shane has also volunteered. We're working on defining what the process actually is and what it means. To that end, I started on a doc, which I will share hopefully today, about what it means to be a chair in a little bit more concrete detail. Hopefully we can check it in somewhere in a YAML file, or not a YAML file, a markdown file. I was talking with Fede on the SIG API machinery side, and Dawn on the SIG node side, who are sort of going through the same thing. So trying to see if we can come up with one doc that solves multiple SIGs descriptions. They seem to operate more or less the same way we do. So hopefully I'll get that doc out soon, but as everybody can see on this call and the recording, that Michael's already starting to run the show. So congratulations. We'll make it, we'll get the doc out there, and then we'll figure out what the sort of officialness is, right? That's all. I just wanted to be on the record with it.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. It looks like the next item on the agenda is Mache with the multi-network requirements cap.
Yep.
You want to see if you do about 10 minutes ish?
Yeah, definitely. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So hi, everyone. So I'm not sure, some of you might remember, some might not. Back in around September, we kicked off the multi-networking effort here in SIG Networking as a sub-project. And basically today I want to kind of talk about the first deliverable that we managed to achieve, which is a form of this PR of a cap. It's a bit unconventional to what usually you might be kind of used to. And the reason behind this is because multi-networking, the whole networking story, is wide and very large. So we decided to go about this with some sort of structure. And basically our first idea was to define frame within which we want to work and move forward towards. So basically what we did is we defined a set of requirements, and those are backed by user stories, to which we want to focus first. And there is quite few of those requirements, which I then divided into phases. And basically those phases eventually will become a truly fledged caps with the design, with details, with the whole fully fleshed out approach. So I would like to hear more of if anyone has a feedback around this. I know this is kind of, I'm not sure whether, I think that's unconventional, and how valid that approach is. I'm not sure how do we want to go into the details of the cap itself. The link is in the minutes, so I appreciate everyone to look at it, read through it, and leave comments. But the general gist around this, again, is to just introduce, the first one is just to introduce our initial set of requirements that we want to follow, and how we want to divide the work to move forward. Moving on, then, when we're going to kind of work on each of the phases, we will have a strict scope set in stone. That's the goal here, so that we don't get distracted by other folks coming in at any point and kind of pushing us into some specific direction that we said is not, we can then say it's not in the scope. That way we kind of systematize our work, and we will be able to kind of push forward. Any comments on that? I assume I'm taking the silence as a agreement and compliance. Everyone's that's a good idea. So I think thank you then. Do we want to go through the cap itself, or should we just leave it to reviewing? Not sure.
I mean, it does look like there's some good discussion going on already.
Yeah, definitely. There is some comments going on. Yes, definitely. And I welcome and trying to be active there as well as we go. I think so. This is where I can stop. If we don't, I don't think I would like to, because I will take the whole probably meeting if I go over the whole stories and the phases. So I will leave that up for you to read. I gave you some general overview of what's the kind of purpose and what's the story behind this whole cap. And as we go, we still have the meetings. As we will go, we are going to kick off and focus on our phase one of this cap. Of course, as this one gets reviewed and hopefully merged eventually, like maybe hopefully next month, but we will start working towards the first phase. And I all welcome everyone to join our discussion, if everyone that's interested in this topic, by the way. So this just to let you know. Rob, you had a hand.
Yeah, I just had a question. So this cap, if I understand correctly, is just agreeing on requirements, right? Agreeing
Correct,
on
yes.
requirements and scope.
No design, nothing. No, exactly. So
right.
even in the stories, and that's I do spell that out in the text. I hope I drive that through, but in the stories, I'm trying to make the stories like a real life use cases. So I'm using like a real life components, like for example, KubeVirt. But it doesn't mean that this is just for the purpose of providing a real life use case to why we do it this way, not the other, right? It doesn't mean any type of component mentioned in the stories doesn't really mean that we want to kind of explicitly support it. It's just to drive our requirement and to drive and to better expose the story itself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess my question is, are you hoping to get any further than that in the 127 cycle? Are you hoping to get a follow-up KEP in this cycle, or is it just agree on requirements?
So I think, and you may 127, you mean this cycle of, so I'm right now not tying myself to any of the releases, because this one is basically just an agreement between the SIG on what we should focus on. I didn't even think about like aligning myself with any of the releases, so I didn't even think about that one. I think, and I don't think about it because it's such a complicated topic, at least I think, and such a kind of spread and wide that I don't even think at what point we can get them done. So I am hoping the first phase we manage to do this in the matter of this semester. So basically, this next semester, I'm hoping to get the first phase KEP to fruition and basically have a PR by the first H1 about what the initial API will look like and pod. But here, to what you're saying, I think it will be good to have it in. There is no implementation behind this one. It's only like documentation mostly, so it's not like I'm in a rush to get it in and get it merged, right? I would like to have this done by the end of the month, hopefully. So I would appreciate everyone's reviewing this. But I'm not sure that I answer your question, or give you at least an idea behind our kind of immediacy around.
Yeah, I think so. It sounds like you're not looking to merge code for at least 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, that's definitely okay. That's definite.
Okay, cool.
Any other questions? If not, then okay. Thanks everyone. Michael, back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, multi-network is certainly very exciting. It looks like, Tim, you've added another agenda item, so I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, sorry, I live inserted myself. I wanted to throw something out real quick while before we run out of time on the really interesting topics. KubeCon EU maintainers track proposals due January 27th. Historically, we have a Kubernetes SIGnet deep dive, intro and deep dive session that is led by somebody from the community at large. Last time, Andrew and Surya and Rob and others did the work. Looking for volunteers to coordinate and write the proposal and get it in. We have approximately 3 weeks to get that proposal in. So I'll put that out here. If anybody's interested, ping me or ping Bowie or Rob, who have also helped coordinate this in the past.
And this would be very well suited to somebody who can be in Amsterdam in person in mid-April, if possible.
That's true. Yes. With, I don't know about everybody else, but with the economic state of the industry right now, a lot of places I hear are cutting down on travel. So perhaps an awesome opportunity for somebody who's in Europe and has a very high probability of being in Amsterdam to lead a session. It's not a super intense session, and we're here to support you and help get the material up. So like great opportunity for somebody who hasn't maybe in the past spoken at KubeCon to get on a stage.
Cool. Well, thank you. It looks like you're the next individual on the agenda there, Tim.
Okay, KEPs. So I started going through KEPs. I created myself a project board, which I shared. of all the KEPs that I'm paying attention to, sort of for my own process and for transparency of all the KEPs I'm watching. It's currently at 63 KEPs, and we have about a month to get those in. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge for me, and I apologize for folks as I time slice between them. I see other folks have added themselves here about specific KEPs that they wanted to talk about. So why don't we do that first? And if we have time, we can look at the KEP board for the project. So Dan, you're first up. You want to talk about your new one?
I didn't really care to talk about it much. I just wanted to make sure that it ended up on the KEP board.
Okay. I added it to my KEP board this morning. Your number is 63. Alexander, do you want to talk about yours, or is it just in the doc?
Same as Dan,
okay.
More or less, yeah. It's only that within that KEP, I might have a topic that could almost be a new KEP in itself, which is regarding kube proxy restarts or upgrades and how that impacts load balancer ingress for stateful applications. I put a note in that KEP, so when you go through it, it might just an FYI that it might spin off into a larger discussion, that topic in itself. But the point I wanted to make was just please have a look at my KEP for now.
I will do. Yours is one that I'm very interested in. I'm going to try to service the older KEPs first, and I would ask everybody else who's reviewing KEPs to do the same, unless a newer KEP is very urgent or there's some dependency inversion. Like between these two, there may be a dependency. They're both touching on the health checking area. But anybody who's reviewing KEPs, let's try to get the older ones serviced first, because, fair queuing and all that. We try, we don't always guarantee. Okay. Should we run through the KEP board?
Yeah, that makes sense because we have like 33 minutes left.
Excellent, great. I will find my window. Give me a second. SIG network KEPs, share. Oh, I have not added Dan's new one to this KEP board. Give me one moment. My list. I started using the new project interface for my own KEP tracking stuff. I haven't spent a lot of time on the views making it work, but anyway, I have my list here. So Dan was number. How do I copy the link? Oh, there we go. Hold on. No. Open that. Assign you a project SIG network KEPs. All right, now you're on the board. All right, let's go from the end in. Things that are GA, fine, that's gate removed already. GA merged, gate not removed. We need to touch all of these and figure out if they're updating. So dual stack, Cal, are we removing the gate in 27?
It's removed.
The
There's
gate's
nothing
removed?
there. Yeah, except some specific cloud provider ones doing some stuff that I'm not sure what they do, but otherwise our code doesn't have anything.
But the gate has been fully removed from features?
Yes.
Awesome.
No, hold on. No. I can check. Leave it. I'll check. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to update it to 27. Oh, there's not a milestone for 27. Oh, there it is. I'm going to update it to 27. The goal being just to keep track of the touch, but it looks like the issue is closed. So maybe we did remove it. There's too many steps in this process right now. This is one of my personal pet peeves. Like we go and remove the gate from the code, but we forget to update the issue and the tracking board. Please double check on that.
It doesn't appear to be in kubefeatures.go anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Awesome. Then I will move it.
So it is removed at least from core code, yes.
Awesome. Internal traffic policy. When does this get removed? When did it GA? Do we update?
126, it GA'd.
It GA'd. Okay, so the target then for it is 26, 27, 28. I just had to count on my fingers. We do not have a milestone for 28. Watch this. Can I add a milestone? Okay, so that's goal is to touch that one in 28. Mixed protocols, that went GA in 26 also, right, Bridget?
Yes, asterisk. Let me double check because I had a confluence of events in 26 and someone else stepped up and was carrying it across the line. So
okay, yeah,
my involvement was more limited, but I will check.
Okay, sorry, I just remember that you were paying attention to it. Okay, I will tag it for 28. If that's wrong, we can move it. Network policy port range. When did we GA this? It says it's tagged for 27, so I think we already did this process.
Someone remove it. I'm trying to figure it out. I wanted to have the pleasure of ending this thing, but someone arrived before me too.
But they did remove the gate?
It seems so.
Really? Give me 1 second, let me check.
Yeah, it is also not in kubefeatures.go.
Okay. I should do a better job of updating this. So I'm going to go ahead and close this then. Congratulations, Ricardo. Closed. And moved here. Okay. Tracking terminating endpoints. I think this just went GA in 26. Yeah, graduating in 26. So next milestone is 28. Service IP ranges. This GA'd in 26. So target will be 27. No, 28. We need to figure out when should we actually close this. Should we close it before the gate is removed, or should we close it after the gate is removed? It doesn't matter. It's in the tracking board either way, but we should figure out what we want to do in terms of life cycle. I keep meaning to draw a state diagram for this. All right. And that's it for things that are GA. Awesome. Let's look at what is beta currently. Well, first of all, let's make sure that I didn't forget to move any to GA, and then what we are hoping to move to GA in 27. Expanded DNS. PTE.
Tim, quick question. In terms of the GA, when you say merged gate, not removed, are we going in and manually checking each one to see if it still has a gate? Is that how we're verifying that before we move it to no gate?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
Because it looks like that one you asked me about did make it in for 1.26. I just have to go check on the gate situation. Yeah.
Oh, do you remember what the gate was called?
I do not.
It had the word mixed protocol LB service is still here. It says it was GA in 26, so it will be. So the gate will still be there until 28. Okay.
Perfect. All right.
Awesome. Does that mean we didn't GA anything in 25, which would have been coming out in 27? Interesting. Okay, that doesn't seem right, but maybe. Okay, let's look at these. Expanded DNS config is currently beta. I have the features open. Expand, not expansion. And DNS config is beta in 26. So let me ping it here. I will update the milestone to 27. There's no milestone for it. Okay. Proxy terminating endpoints. It went beta in 26, so I will ask the same question. I don't, unless Andrew's here. He didn't say anything. Okay, I'll give it milestone 27. gRPC. Bowie, are you here? No.
I can check in with him.
Okay. Yeah, please do. It's marked as 27 is the goal to GA in 27. It says the feature gate says it went beta in 24, so no reason not. Oh, it needed kubelet support. That's what it was, right? So 27 will be the first one where we can assert version skew safety. Yes?
Not sure.
Okay, well, it's tagged 27. I'll ping it just to be sure. Rob.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with this one. There's been lots and lots of discussion about something that I think is a parallel proposal, which would enable users to specify, force traffic to stay in zone instead of this kind of magic or attempted automatic approach here. I feel like it may be safer to track that separately. We've been having all of that discussion in the prefer local KEP right now. But until that's resolved, I don't really know what to do with this KEP. I've gotten feedback that it is working well for a number of people, but I don't, that's really all I have to base it on at this point.
Do we have any signal that it's actively problematic, or is it just not as good as people want it to be?
I would say the largest frustration is related to that it can't be forced on and therefore is not deterministic. There are frustrations where when even if you have pods evenly distributed during a rolling update, where a pod is temporarily unready, the hints are going to be removed during that period because there's not even distribution for that period of time. So there are some complaints. I don't know that, I think that's kind of working as intended. Just what's intended does not solve everyone's problem.
Let me re-ask my question. I agree that there's a separate policy proposal, and Dan, we should talk about whether we want to expand your KEP or create a separate KEP for zone level topology to discuss. Let's put that aside here. On this, which is the sort of automatic heuristic driven implementation, the heuristics can always be better, but do we need to block GAing this on improving the heuristic? Or if the heuristic isn't hurting anybody, it just isn't helping as much as it possibly could, then I'm happy to say this is a GA feature and the rest are just bugs or new feature requests or new KEPs. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable to me. I honestly don't know what else we could do in the scope of this one. I think there is legitimate feedback that another policy, another way to kind of force this on is valuable, but I don't know that needs to delay this specific set of features, but open feedback.
Anybody else disagrees? I just milestoned it for 27. Do you feel comfortable trying to push this to GA in 27? Rob?
I personally do, but I, want to be, open to others. But
okay, I'll milestone it for 27. Let's do me the favor then, Rob. Try to collect some thoughts and feedback. If there's any reason not to, we can push it out. But I haven't really heard anybody say, "Oh my God, topology broke me." Just oh my God, it's not good enough.
Not yet. We have
It's
tendency
true.
for people to wait. Yeah.
It's true. I have a separate doc that I'm working on that I want to share soon, rethinking how we do alpha, beta, GA for features, because I don't think it's working very well for us as a project overall. We're not getting good feedback, and we're sitting in beta state for a very long time. So I've got a doc that I'm hoping to share soon. This is what I did over Christmas. Okay, then you're milestoned. Good. And none of these, okay, good. Let's go back to alpha, things that are currently alpha that want to go beta in 27. Let me just open them all up. Did I get it? Yeah. Okay, Ricardo, are we going to end of life this one?
I think so.
Okay.
Dan, do you want to say something on that as well?
I mean, it never really got completely figured, or what do you mean end of life?
Like, stop keeping it as something that we will evaluate to do?
Remove,
Okay.
right?
Abandoned.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, there are ideas in there, but nobody's working on them. So I guess, yeah.
Okay. I will remove that from the code.
Oh, yes. Good idea. Let me then, I'll milestone you for 27.
Okay. Yeah. Deleting code is the best PR, right?
That it totally is. I'll throw a quick note here. And honestly, this is a healthy part of our life cycle. We should be able to try things and decide it was a bad idea and not do it, right?
So since we've run into weird problems with APIs before, this does not preclude us from adding a status field again later in the future, right?
It does not preclude us from it, but if we do, we should come back with the same name and proto tag just in case anybody has it serialized somewhere. And we should not reuse any field names within that structure that we've already used unless we use them with the exact same schema. So Ricardo, when you end of life it, throw comments in there that say, this is what we did and it's tombstone here so that we don't blow ourselves up later.
Okay.
Okay. Node IPAM for multiple cluster siders. I have sort of lost the context on this one. Anybody here who can speak to it? Okay, I can reach out internally. Let's see who's been working on it. We need an unknown milestone. It's currently tagged as 27. We'll come back to it. Admin network policy. Oh my gosh, Andrew, I have totally let you fall off my radar. What's the status, my man?
Just waiting for implementations to get done. I've gotten verbal confirmations from Antria, Oven Kubernetes, and Google folks for Cilium, but I don't think really much happened last year on those. So just keep pushing it along. Otherwise, it's just more community outreach, spreading awareness about the API. We submitted a talk for KubeCon this year, so hoping that gets accepted. And yeah, that's where we're at. So I think for the KEP, I mean, we're kind of tracking it out of tree, but once we get some implementations, we can probably keep pushing the KEP forward.
Okay. Excellent. Dan.
this should move forward in 127. Yeah, I mean,
do you need the beta or do you want to go straight to GA?
Wojtek had been a little bit hesitant about this for whatever reason in the PRRs. Of course, you could just declare that we don't need a real cap and therefore we don't need a real PRR, and then we can go right to GA. It's working fine in the 5,000 node scale test.
In some sense, it was a bug fix. Like we added a cap
Yes.
because it was high risk, right?
Right.
You want to maybe ping Wojtek and ask if he's comfortable on the PRR side of just going straight to GA. I'm not sure that beta will buy us any safety. Like the only thing beta would buy us is that somebody could disable it. Do we really think that that's likely? Okay, milestone.
I guess the flip side is that other than it being one more thing for us to track, is there any reason to not go to beta? Like everybody
that's a fair point. That's a fair point. In this, in my head, the doc that I'm writing suggests basically that beta is a lie and we should just have like not GA and GA. And so I would be asking at this point, is this GA? Like what extra signal are we going to get? I
mean, the difference I'm thinking is that if it's beta and it breaks somebody, they can disable it. Whereas if it's GA and it breaks them, they have to file a bug.
Right. Or we could make it GA and not locked, right? We could say this is done.
Do we do that? I guess the code lets you do that, right?
Yeah. I think it's been done before. We've also had GA and off by default before. So it's rare, but we have done it. Anyway, take a look at it. I'm going to try to wrap up here real quick because I know I'm taking up the whole agenda. IP tables chain ownership, same situation.
This was skipping a release, but yes, it should move forward in 127.
Excellent. It's already milestoned. Okay. I'm going to cede the floor back because I've taken up a lot of time. There are a bunch of things that are not yet in. I'll spend some time going through this. Everybody else is welcome to also take a look at it and try to get these up to date. And if you have KEPs that are not represented here at all, like I've missed tagging it with our KEP board, please let me know on Slack or something. Michael, I'll turn the floor back to you.
Cool. Thanks, Tim. Rob, do you want to take your agenda item?
Yeah, this is actually very related to that. I just wanted to highlight, and it looks like Tim has already covered almost all the KEPs, but I just wanted to highlight that we're around a month out from KEP freeze, which the cycle just always keeps on going. I don't know. It feels like we just went through this, but yeah. With that said, I had a couple KEPs I wanted to highlight that they are not KEPs right now, but I am hoping to make them KEPs in this cycle. The first one that I would highlight, I guess, would be want to upstream reference grant. This is something like that is actually I don't think it's actually going to be a SIG network KEP. It'll probably be a SIG auth KEP. But it's related to SIG network because SIGNet currently owns reference grant. I don't know that there's much. I think that discussion has already happened. It's just SIG storage is also using the resource now. It's not really a networking concept. It just started in Gateway API because we needed it. The other thing I want to start and this is maybe worth more discussion, is app protocol. I added app protocol a while ago, and in our spec for service port app protocol, we said everything in here that isn't domain prefix should be a IANA service name, which is a really long list of things, but unfortunately leaves out some really useful protocols that people want to specify. So we've reached a point where there are multiple implementations trying to implement the same service, and seeing something like gRPC, there's no standard way to do that. I would like to create just a single cycle KEP that provide some standard for protocols that aren't standard service names, but domain prefixing doesn't really make sense either, or at least vendor-specific domain prefixing. I wanted to raise that here fairly early just because I wanted to see if anyone else had run into a pain point there. I know there's a few implementations that are using app protocol and using different values to represent the same protocol already. But if anyone else has run into that, I would like to get a little bit of feedback so we know how to steer that standardization, I guess.
Something I've been thinking about for a long time, just haven't made any time for, was to extract all of the labels and annotations and things that we publish that are effectively constants into a staging package that just defines constants so that people could use them all over the place. Would it make sense here to retain the IANA rule and say, we're going to define a kubernetes.io/grpc until and unless IANA puts a gRPC one, and if they do, then we can accept both. But just say this is a project-wide pseudo standard.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to come up with a list of gaps right now that aren't covered by those service names. And I think, Kubernetes or K8s.io prefix is probably what we need to standardize on. But even just, I think it's a handful, maybe somewhere between 3 and 10 protocols that we want to do this for. But if anyone has a specific protocol that is not covered, that we should cover and standardize on, it'd be good to get it all in one go with this cap. I think it's really just a single cycle cap. It's not one that really needs to graduate or do anything. It reminds me of the cap I think Tim, you wrote on zone region standardization. This seems very similar to that.
Sure. I would love to see a cap for that. And the implementation being literally create a new staging project, create a repo. We could argue over the naming and structure of it, but it would more or less just hold constants.
Cool.
Okay, cool, Rob. Thanks for signing that one up.
Rob, are you all done?
Yeah, I think so. I did add something on there about the topology traffic, prefer local traffic policy, but I think we already discussed that a bit earlier today. So I think I'll call that good for me.
Right on. Well, we have 7 minutes left. Do we have any else to discuss? And
I have a really small thing. The network policy folks have agreed to move our meeting to be more EU friendly to Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time. I opened a PR to change that, but I do not have the admin rights to edit the calendar invite, which has actually been really frustrating at times for if we want to cancel a meeting, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm hoping we can find a way to maybe give more people the rights to do that. Casey is on PTO till the 10th. So either Dan or Tim would have to go do it if we needed it done ASAP.
Okay. Ping me on Slack with some details and I'll take a look. I don't know how to delegate access to calendar ownership. Okay. Maybe there's a way to do it, but if there is, I've never used it.
Somehow I got access. I can't send new invites, but I can modify existing invites on the SIGNet calendar. So I might be able to help with this specific thing. And that makes me think that we can also get you access the same way, but it's been a while and I don't remember how it worked. I think it's sharing a Google Calendar access somewhere.
With you, maybe with you directly as opposed to with the mailing list?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be perfect, but I'll go ahead and send those details as well. Thank you.
All right. Cool.
Right on. Anything else? Okay, cool. Well, we can wrap up 5 minutes early and hopefully everybody has a great day.
Happy New Year, everybody. Glad to see everyone back. And I will try to get to all these gaps. it's exciting. I'm excited about all this stuff, and I'm super happy to see everything proceeding. You know, like 2 or 3 releases ago, we looked at our KEP board and we're like, oh my God, what's going on here? Let's start draining it. I think we've been wildly successful at moving things to the right on that KEP board. I know there's a flood of things that are just dying to come in. So
cool. Right on. Have it going.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.